The extended producer responsibility legislation, which applies across large parts of the EU, clearly defines who is responsible for a piece of packaging, also after its usage. This is the party who places it on the market. If the industry wants this successful model to continue, it must work on the recyclability of its products and their packaging. This specifically means that packaging and other plastic products must be consistently designed in such a way that they can be manufactured predominantly from recycled plastic, and so that they themselves can also be easily recycled.
The recyclability of packaging is determined by different factors. We have the sorting capability, the separability of the materials used after disintegration, and the possible presence of inseparable incompatibilities. If recyclability is to be claimed, it is important that collection and recycling infrastructures are available in the respective country. It is possible that one packaging is recyclable in Germany, but not in another country. The physical recyclability does not differ here. The different dimensioning results from the fact that recyclability, in the sense of a declaration of conformity, can only be tested if a packaging is actually recycled in a country. Here, the requirements in Europe are still very different. Packaging is considered well recyclable if the before mentioned conditions are met. Sortability, per instance, in the case of plastics, detectability by means of NIR. The individual material types can be separated from each other after physical material disintegration. Per instance, for plastics, no multi-layer structures of different material types, and that no additive adhesives are used which adversely affect the recycling properties.
Also muss man gucken, woran bemesse ich das denn?
Practice-oriented measurement criteria must be established. We must deal with the processes happening in the field and which packaging is sorted out in the first place. It starts here. Of course, the first point is to sort it out for actual recycling and not for incineration. The second point concerns recyclability. Are there incompatibilities in the packaging that limit the recyclability? Thirdly, are there any factors which make a packaging completely non-recyclable? These are factors which lead to the conclusion that even a recycling plant could not recycle this packaging. This triad is reflected relatively well in practice, so these points can be identified relatively quickly by companies at this stage. Are there components of the packaging that reduce recyclability, such as a full sleeve label? This label would be assigned to a different material group than the packaging itself or the selected dyes. Are there any components or barriers that interfere with the sorting mechanisms or make recycling impossible? We illustrate these topics in order to determine very quickly whether this packaging is suitable for recycling or not in the context of the minimum standard. It's fairly simple for producers to determine to what extent their packaging is suitable for recycling. If companies wish to verify this, they can do so by using the three-step approach. Most packaging can be classified by oneself. Standard packaging, such as a shampoo bottle, a glass bottle or a liquid cardboard composite, can be classified very easily. Due to barrier layers, it may be necessary to carry out laboratory tests now and then. However, the majority of all packaging can be classified quite easily due to basic criteria.
Einfache, simple Kriterien sind.
With what is called design for recycling, I see several positive developments. Less complexity, fewer material variations, better printing inks, more easily removable adhesives, and more transparent packaging rather than colored, opaque packaging. These approaches will ensure that the quantity of plastic waste collected will be far better recyclable in a few years' time compared with today. This development is also urgently needed because, according to our analysis, around a third of the packaging put in Germany's packaging recycling bins, the gelbe Sack, is currently completely unrecyclable. If this were to change, it would also increase the amount of high-quality recyclates that we could supply to industry and to manufacturers at a competitive price. And at that point, we come again to market mechanisms. The quality of recyclates is another challenge for a functioning secondary resources market. In fact, currently no standards exist for recyclates. However, buyers need guidance and assurance and therefore require appropriate information about the properties and characteristics of the material they are buying. As an example of this, we have proven long ago that recyclates made of HDPE from the German packaging waste bin can be used to make bottles for washing and cleaning detergents without any problems whatsoever. However, there are companies that still use virgin material because they fear product liability issues when using recycled material. We have to address the doubts of these hesitant companies with binding and recognized standards for our products. The whole market must become much more transparent.
It would be desirable to reduce EPR fees if the packaging is considered recyclable, especially since this would also be causation based under European conditions. Recyclable packaging generally causes lower EPR costs due to the proceeds from the reusable materials.
Packaging should become more ecological if possible. Packaging should be recyclable. The basic idea is to increase the costs of non-recyclable packaging in regard to the costs of disposing and decrease the cost of recyclable packaging. The minimum standard addresses EPR systems because it requires these systems to determine whether packaging will become more expensive or cheaper. Consequently, this means that the application of the minimum standard is not mandatory. Indeed, making the application mandatory would not even be possible, and in some cases would not even be desirable.
Within the current market context in Ghana, recyclability would not necessarily be an initial criterion for modulation of EPR fees. And there are a number of reasons why. First of all, recyclability is not clearly defined within the Ghanaian definition. Secondly, certain packaging types that are considered unrecyclable in other markets are actually made specifically for Ghanaian and other developing economy contexts for a number of reasons. The economies of scale, the actual socioeconomic factors of the people within the country context. And for this reason, when we consider changing packaging, suggesting alternative packaging, or making one packaging structure more expensive than another within a context, it needs to also be considered within those socioeconomic factors of what the local people can and cannot afford based on the poverty levels.